I found that out. First motorcycle
Call the meeting to order. Roll call. Here.
Here.
Alderman Johnson.
Here.
Alderman West.
Here.
Alderman Stanley.
Here.
Alderman Pavlicek.
Next item on the agenda will be invocation by Darrell Jones, Crossroad Baptist Church, and followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Bob Headley.
Let's pray together. We give you thanks tonight, God, for another beautiful day, another opportunity that we have as your creation to glorify our Creator. And so I pray for this meeting as we give thanks for our community, our town, our leaders, our people, the people that work hard to make this community what it is. And I just give you thanks. I even give you thanks tonight for the criticism that we learn from, although it's not always easy to take and accept, and sometimes it's given very willingly. But we do give you thanks for this community that we live in, and that it's not as so many others. We don't live in a third world country. We have running water that's safe and clean. We have electricity. We have homes that we own, that we maintain, and we have a town that cares. And so I give you thanks for that. And I pray for the proceedings of this meeting tonight, the decisions that will be made, the things that will be put on the table that will be made for decisions for later. I just pray you would give wisdom and discernment where we lack knowledge and understanding. And we pray it all in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Happy anniversary. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
No changes.
No proclamations. Citizens' participation. Citizens may ask, come forward with issues, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes or under. Any comments tonight? Okay, seeing none.
I move we accept the consent agenda.
Okay, have a motion to accept the consent agenda from Alderman West.
Second.
Second by Alderman Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Previous business, temporary liquor license application.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of the board, if you'll remember about a month ago, Embrace the Grape submitted application to the Board of Aldermen to find out if they could get a temporary liquor permit over at Acquaint Gatherings. At that time, the board approved one of the requests and asked that we reach out to the church, First Baptist, to make sure that they did not oppose or contest the additional issuance of the permits. We actually have somebody from the church. He is in charge of the Board of Trustees. I can tell you that from my discussion with him, the church is opposed to the issuance of the application of the permit, and he's come tonight to answer any questions if the board has any.
Any other comments?
On these temporaries, do they pay a fee for these temporaries?
Yes, they do.
And does-
$31.50.
And what's a liquor license for a full,
It's just for that day.
I mean, a normal, what is a normal
Entire
bar?
No, it's for that day for
I
sale by the
understand
drink,
this
by the
is for
drink.
that day, but a normal bar, what do they pay a year for their license?
It depends on what kind of application they have, what type of license they've applied for. It ranges anywhere from $300 to $1,500.
Okay, I'm just curious, they're paying even a really reasonable fee, but if the church is opposed to it tonight. Agree with the church?
Mayor, can I ask, can you explain why you're opposed
and what your concerns are, your Board of Trustees' concerns are.
We have a lot of functions on Saturdays, and I just don't think it's right that we are serving liquor across the street from the church. On one side is a church, on the other three sides is residential. I just don't think we should be serving liquor that close to a church. The same night that they're asking for permission to do this, we have a wedding of 300 people.
Ryan, what do we do in a case like this where, I mean, the business owner, has stated, what they were buying the business for? I think this is the second owner of this establishment. And now we're coming back and saying, oops, we forgot to do something, and we're potentially restricting a business, again, in a situation where probably prior to this, they were allowed to do this a number of times. And
Jamie may be able to speak a little better on it, but I do believe this is the second time that we've seen application for a temporary liquor license. It's never been issued with a quaint gathering. They've never had one underneath their name. In fact, this is almost like a subcontractor coming in to,
vendor.
to do the.
So are you saying they can, as long as they're not outsourcing that work, if you will, they can, or if they don't sell the liquor, that they can technically have the liquor in the establishment?
That would depend on their legal rights with their insurance companies and things like that. But if they're selling the alcohol, the city cannot issue a permanent license to them because of the restrictions within the code. Although they've never applied.
But technically, they could end up not selling it and still serving liquor.
What I can say to that is they don't have to go through the city to serve it. That's all I know. It would be the same as a private residence having a party and following the law, but not having to go through the city for any specific permit or license to do so, because they're just serving the alcohol, they aren't selling it.
Because at that point, it almost sounds like we're splitting hairs. And I mean, I get exactly what your concern is. I just want to make sure that, we're doing one thing to fix an issue, and then, as we found out many times before, what we thought we were fixing ends up causing a number of other issues. So I just want to at least talk through it, or...
I mean, as far as the code is, we have to, interpret literally, and it's within 300 feet of the property line of the church. So, I mean, that is why it's up to you for discussion, because we have no way to issue that. And in a typical, I mean, it's very similar, although there's no legal requirement. This is similar to what we would do for a zoning case, where you send, notification out 185 feet around the property owner. So the only property owner that causes that to be restricted use is the church, which is why we've contacted them, and they've come now. However you guys decide to discuss it and work it out, that's completely up to you.
I would like to point out that this decision you make tonight isn't deciding on if they can have some sort of gathering at this place. They have a business license, they're an acting business, so if this weren't passed tonight, they very well could still have these parties, receptions, whatever they are on these 2 evenings. They very well could still have those, it just wouldn't include alcohol.
Well, they wouldn't be able to sell liquor.
If it's served, they're not selling.
All I'm saying is they don't have to...
I gotcha.
I mean, I understand we've got to follow the rules, but it almost seems like we're splitting hairs. I mean, so what happens if they serve it and somebody says, a member of the church happens to be there and complains? Well, are they then in trouble, or based on what you said earlier, no different than a party at your residence?
As long as they don't violate any other laws or ordinances, related to infractions or whatever, we can't do anything about it, per our code, because they're not selling. The only regulations we have is to sell.
And understanding your concerns, Alderman Bedley, my concern also lies in, and legal maybe have to weigh in on this, is that if we do too many variances of this situation where we're within 300 feet of a church and allow someone to have a temporary liquor license, would someone who wanted to open a full-time liquor establishment within some of our restrictions have grounds to say, well, you give a variance here with this particular situation, why don't I get the same consideration? So it's a kind of a slippery slope for us to do variances in contradiction to our guidelines, and then later down the line, something else could come up to be a larger situation. It's harder for us to say no. You know, is there a concern there?
Yes. And I have looked at the ordinance. Is it a mandatory, no license shall be entered or granted?
Gosh, I'm not sure it's language, but I can look it up.
300 feet, yes.
Is it shall
You
or
have it?
may?
It's not in there, Ryan.
That's not there. Can you look at it real quick?
Yes, Mayor.
Hold, please.
That would just be my biggest concern, is that we're doing something that could cause boards down the road problems because of past history, that we were starting down the path that could be.
I would agree with that.
No pressure.
No one's watching.
No one's watching me. I'm completely calm.
Cue the Jeopardy tone.
Okay, now I explain it in the code. This is the hard part. Everybody have a good weekend?
It says along the lines that no, you can't have liquor license if you're within 300 feet of a church. It says in essence that you can't have a liquor license within 300 feet of a church.
Well, if it says shall, that's what I'm asking. If it's mandatory, that makes it a little less discretionary on the board's part. That's why I was asking if it says shall, or one of the factors to be considered is. You follow me?
Mm-hmm, I do. I just have to find it.
It probably would be
Table
the
this
general
different
language
actually.
under, issues. Okay.
It's only 25 pages long, we'll get to it soon.
Really, you can talk amongst yourselves. It's,
Oh, we just ever says in Syracuse, makes you feel uncomfortable.
P30. No license shall be granted for the sale of alcoholic beverages within 300 feet of any school, church, or other building used as a place of worship unless the applicant for such license shall first obtain the consent in writing of the board of directors of the school or church.
That's your answer.
Okay.
Shall. The only exception is if the church, consents. And that's, for the record, what, section is that again, Jamie?
600-230.
I would ask
I'll
that you
put that
make
in
a
there.
copy of that, Jamie, and incorporate it by reference into that,
Mhm.
so we know exactly what section it is.
Done? Done.
So at this point, I don't believe the board can take further action.
No, the board does not have the discretion according to legal.
Any other discussion? We'll move on.
All right.
Should we actually vote it down then?
No motion's been
I
made.
don't think you have any,
That was just under business.
well, I think you could take a vote to deny it, just to show on the record that you did, and that you followed the ordinance.
Okay, I motion that we, make a determination on the, let me phrase that.
How about motion to deny the application?
All right, I motion we deny the application.
Have a motion by Alderman Johnston to deny the application, second by Alderman West. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Same. 5-0. did. That's fine. 6. Okay. Run out fingers. All right. No presentations? Ordinances.
Yes, Your Honor. Bill B 15-13, first reading, is an ordinance approving the final plat of East Kansas City Industrial Park 12th plat. First reading is on to only one tonight, correct? First reading.
Mayor, I move that we accept bill number, 15-13 for its first reading, bring it back to the second reading by title only.
I have a motion to accept Bill 15-13. A second?
Second.
Second by Alderman Headley. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
6-0.
Sorry. Any discussion?
Thank you, Jake.
Opposed?
Resolution, R 15-52, which is a resolution by the Board of Aldermen, City of Green Valley, Missouri, authorizing the city administrator to purchase a 2015 Chevrolet Silverado 1500 4x4 crew cab truck for the Community Development Department's Public Works Division. Resolution R 15-52.
Mayor, I move we accept resolution 15-52 as read.
Have a motion to accept resolution 15-52. Have a second? Second by Alderman Pawlczak. Any discussion?
I meant to call you, Dave Ryan. When I first saw this, I thought it was just a duplication of last week's truck, but I see last week was for, maintenance supervisor, and this is for the, Public Works Division.
Yeah, operations manager truck, yes, sir. It's a replacement of the vehicle that he's, had, and that vehicle's actually up on the FERP last year.
Between those two vehicles, how many do either of them actually transport people? And do either of them do any plowing or anything?
Not in the trucks, but both those trucks are used for the supervisory during snow operations. I'll let Ken talk about the use.
Yeah, we don't plow with any of them anymore, but this truck, if you remember last week, that was going with the extended cab. So basically what we've done is we're trying to replace like for like. Our supervisor's old truck was a extended cab, so that's what we went with last week. The truck that the operations manager has now is a 4x4 crew cab. So what you see before you is the 4x4 crew cab and Chevy. The operations manager position does involve a decent amount of carrying people. That's the vehicle that maintenance would use if we're going for training anywhere, whether it's downtown or Jeff City, or that's the vehicle that we would load people in to, most often.
So this one will transport people?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, I agree. I want to make kept in mind that I'm opposed to these. I think for, not this one here, if we do actually transport people. I see all our trucks for these extended cabs with one person riding them, and they're going at the most 3-4 miles generally. And I just don't see the justification in all the extended cabs we have, so I hope that's kept in mind in the future.
Yeah, I think we can definitely, especially with budget coming up, we can talk. I don't even know if we have any vehicles to replace next year for Public Works or Community Development, but that needs to be part of the discussion, absolutely.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
That's all, Mayor.
City Attorney's report.
Nothing, Your Honor.
City Administrator staff reports.
Mr. Mayor, we'll start out with Chief Starbuck reporting on the golf tournament, and then go to Mr. Murphy.
The Victims Assistance Golf Tournament was the weekend before last. Players and teams were down. Weather was horrible. They did have 13 teams that played. And after expenses and so forth, they yielded a profit that'll go to the Victims Assistance Fund of about $1,500.
Okay. Next report.
Just had a couple things. One, just kind of wanted to remind you that next Thursday is our annual community development event. So we'll have different activities for kids and food and a chance to interact with the community, to answer any questions they may have. That'll be from 5 to 7, and we're going to have that at the pavilion behind the community center. And then I just kind of wanted to give an update. We had the citywide cleanup on May 30th. A total of 217 vehicles went through. We filled 9 30-yard dumpsters, 2 scrap metal dumpsters, and also had 17 senior pickups prior to the event for those that wanted to, get rid of things but couldn't physically get them to the site. So it was a success. The weather held out, and it's a very good turnout.
I'm sorry, what was the date on the citywide cleanup?
That was the May 30th.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. The community development event is next Thursday, the 18th.
Oh, that's, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, I just had one thing that I want to talk about quickly. I've mentioned this previously, but just want to let you know that we're underway with the 2016 budget, and budgets are actually due to myself and finance by mid-July, and we plan on having the Board of Aldermen work sessions from about September 21st through October 14th. And tentatively right now, we will have the public hearing for the budget adoption October 26th, and that way we can get the budget actually approved by mid-November. No, the public hearing for the budget. We'll actually have one the same night that we approve. So, just want to let you know that we aren't even through the second quarter, and we're working on that.
We did have one more thing I forgot about. At the last meeting, we had the resolution on there for the Traverse, and you asked us to go and research some other vehicles. We did. Basically was called out for an Equinox or cars. So we looked up some of that. The Equinox were past the point of ordering those, so that's not a real option. We reached out to some of the dealers around here, and they didn't have anything that would really be close to the price that MoDOT was offering. Everything was going to be higher. As far as cars go, there is on the MARC bid, Shawnee Mission Ford's bid for a Taurus was $20,280. If you remember the Traverse, it was just under $25,000, which is what we had budgeted. We did reach out to Moley, and this isn't through a competitive bid. We just told them what we were interested in, kind of what was on the MoDOT bid. And for a Malibu, their price was $19,500. One of the things to keep in mind, we generally just send the cars to auction. If we were to go out and basically just get bids from the dealer like we did at Moley, we would have the option of trading in the vehicle that's being replaced, which would also bring that down. But that's basically what we found there. So I don't know how you wanted us to move forward with that.
Didn't have an Impala? Didn't have an Impala?
The Impalas were more.
Is that, now that, you said, Malibu, is it about the same size as the Taurus?
Technically, I think the Malibu is the same as a Fusion, which is a little bit smaller than the Taurus, but there's not a whole lot of difference there.
2-door, 4-door?
4.
4-door. Assuming that, but I'm asking.
Get a little coupe.
Okay. Any direction the board wants to give on?
Well, I want to ask a question about the vehicles too.
Mm-hmm.
I guess how many vehicles do we have, and like Chuck was saying, how many are personal employee vehicles where they're not shared? So if Jamie needed to go to training, or Khalil want to go to training, they can use the same vehicle. Does everybody have their own personal vehicle that's paid for besides their personal vehicle, or is a vehicle that the city can share, to go to trainings or whatnot?
Everybody does not have their own. Actually, the way it's set up right now, the trucks that you saw are for the public works fleet, basically. But as far as vehicles around City Hall, obviously Ryan, as the administrator, has one. We have the codes official and the building inspector each have a vehicle. They're constantly going back and forth. It's not a personal take-home, just at work. And we have a Ford Escape that's kind of a general fund vehicle, so it kind of goes everywhere. Sometimes it's here, sometimes it's not. That could be police going to training, we'll take it, court, admin, and it probably spends more time not here than here, going to the different trainings. And then the Traverse that we talked about last time, or the car, that would be technically the director's vehicle, but the way everything kind of gets moved around, if somebody needs it, we go.
So Ryan has his own vehicle, Mr. Davies has his own vehicle, or he does?
No, there's actually, they have a Dodge Durango that's shared between him, Melissa, Jim at the community center.
Okay.
It's kind of a community vehicle, similar to what the Escape is, for the city hall side.
We finally let him get rid of the LTD?
Yeah, I get the recycled PD cars. Durango, we're real happy.
So, yeah, did want to make clear, we're not adding any vehicles to the fleet. This isn't building on, this is just going through replacement.
This for you, this vehicle's for you to get around?
Yes.
We're talking about, just you, no assistant, nobody else, just you?
It will be technically for my position, but, I mean, if somebody needs to go, because what
A
ends
lot
up,
of times it is shared within the department.
what ends up happening in reality, like I said, the Escape comes and goes to training, so you need a vehicle,
Okay.
we gotta go.
You want a motion on this tonight?
If you want to make one, you can, otherwise we can have something,
The Malibus aren't, I know they aren't very good in size, that's one of the reasons I asked if the Taurus was bigger. I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and approve the Taurus.
The Taurus is big, like, the Taurus is considered the full size, the Malibu's the mid-size, so if you looked at Ford, the Fusion is the comparable one to the Malibu.
How much is the Taurus? Because the Taurus has changed a lot over time, it's gotten to be a luxury.
It has, from Shawnee, on the mark bid, Shawnee Mission Ford's was $20,280, so,
But if we're concerned about dollars, why don't we go with the $19,000 vehicle?
Size for $1,000 is quite a bit difference in size between, 'cause I'd suggested the Impala, and the Impala's I know is quite a big, and Malibu's pretty small.
But that's the same debate as a Traverse versus an Equinox.
The Equinox can carry 4 people pretty comfortably, so can Traverse. Traverse just has a lot more creature features to it.
So can a Malibu. I drive one. I'm just saying.
I don't care, I'm good with the Taurus, if someone else wants Malibu.
Okay, so you're making that a motion?
All right, I'm motioning to approve the Taurus.
I guess one last question, which one has the best mileage, I guess?
Resale value.
we weren't prepared to talk about that tonight. I mean, we researched vehicles.
I mean, my guess is that the Taurus would be a little bit more just because it is a full-size car, but that's, I don't have numbers behind me to back that up.
Ford versus a Chevy.
You come back to us and with all the numbers and all the questions that were brought up, and we can.
If we go that route, the Taurus is already competitively bid because that's the mark bid. If we go the Malibu route, we can't get that through MoDOT anymore. What I gave you was Moley's bid on that. We will have to go get 2 more bids to come back. I would doubt it'd be any cheaper, but we could have those 2 things.
So what you're saying is you'd have to, we can purchase off of the MoDOT bid, we can still purchase the Taurus, just.
It's off the mark bid, yeah.
Mark bid, sorry.
Mhm.
By that time, you'll burn that much time and effort, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a motion for the Taurus.
Okay, and a second. Second from Alderman West to purchase the Ford Taurus. There's give permission for the city manager to go out and make acquisition. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Did we have to take that off the table first? Did we table that last time?
I just made a motion, that's,
We did, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know if you have to bring it back off the table. I guess you could kill the bill. I think per our training this weekend that we learned that a table wasn't even what we thought it was. So,
Learned a lot of things.
actually hanging anywhere, it should have been,
I made a motion.
should have been postponed. Yeah, Jamie, do you need some action to
Table
to
for the meeting.
Yeah, we can just go ahead and this one. Detail the resolution.
the previous resolution?
And to approve.
Yes.
Okay.
Does the board agree to that motion?
Yes.
All right.
Motion to appeal previous resolution. I'll have a motion to accept. Very good. Second.
I think we got it already.
yeah.
Already got all that?
Well, yeah.
Okay.
I'm good.
Keep me on track.
That's right.
Any other staff reports? Board of Aldermen reports. Wanda, what?
Nothing at this time, Mayor. For him.
Stanley?
I just have one thing. Someone, brought to my attention that they felt like the notes could be on the internet a little faster. I guess people have been trying to look at them and can't find them, or if they're not on there soon enough. That's just the only thing I
Well,
have.
technically, we can't put the minutes on the website until they're approved by the board. So as soon as they get approved, we get them up there within the week. We've been a little backlog this week because of, or this month because of the occupational license renewals, but we will attempt to get it up there fast.
Okay. I'll make that, thank you.
No problem.
Alderman Palchik?
Real quick, can I want to say thanks for, the Leanne situation and the street. You guys got right back with me, was shocked that we went under that. It was very sweet, so I want to say thanks for that.
Thank you. Alderman Johnson?
First of all, thanks for getting the information on the cars so quickly. Second, I'd ask about the possibility of, did you have a chance to check in cost of painting or what, doing something along Hardy Myers there?
Yeah, I did. I had, Rick was actually out of the office last week, but I did have him throw something together there. So this was like a painted-on bike lane, basically, and what he came up with, we looked at the width of the road as it is now. If you went from Oida Drive to Long Drive, you could have a 5-foot wide bike lane, which would make the lanes themselves 11 feet wide, which is fine as far as acceptable widths. With that, I told him to also look at, if we were going that far, we probably need to look at going all the way up Artie Mize to Bar. It gets a little more difficult there if you were to go with just a 4-foot bike path. That shrinks the lanes down to 9 feet, which with the RV place there could get a little tight. The numbers he threw together for doing signage and striping, all that, for just the short part from Oida Drive to Long was $12,200.
Jeez.
And then to do the entire stretch, or to do the other stretch would be about $24,000. Now those are the original numbers that were thrown out, and I don't have exactly the breakdown on what that is. But I guess my take on it was if we can't, it'd be kind of odd just to do the little stretch without going the full distance.
Yeah, I thought about maybe going down to, what is it, Golf View that cuts to north down. I thought maybe about going down at least that far, but I thought, geez, sounds more like we're paving it than painting it, $12,000.
Striping's very expensive, especially with the requirements with the bike lane, what you have to have in the bike lane.
Yeah, I don't think that it's cost effective for that. For traffic, I think people walk alongside that road fine without, people running over them. Most of it's in daytime anyhow.
Yeah, and actually one of the things we were looking at on Artie Mize for the actual residential area there is cars park there a lot. I'm not sure how feasible it really is to have the lane, because
Yes, it is.
cruising down the street and run into a car.
$100 just to paint from Oida down to there?
His original estimate is $12,000, yeah.
$12,000?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's 100 per thousand.
Okay, never mind. But did I ever ask?
Okay.
We can pave it ourselves, we can do community.
All right, get the old jeans up, huh? Alderman Headley?
Two things. Chief, thanks for the extra visible enforcement out on Duncan Road, as we talked a couple of meetings ago.
Sure, we're making friends.
Yeah, I'm sure. And Ken, let the Public Works folks know, about the cleanup, citywide cleanup. I took some stuff there, just, sitting in line waiting. Thought it was very, very well organized. It was amazing how much stuff people were bringing in and how fast they were unloading it.
Yeah, we didn't get the breaks that they were hoping for there.
Yeah.
We actually had to order more containers than what we originally thought we would have. It was, I don't know if it's just because it didn't rain and people had a lot stored up. Maybe the garage sale didn't go as well as some people had hoped, but at noon we were still, I was talking to Patrick, and they were still all the way up to James Rollo and back past the maintenance building, just lined up, and they hadn't taken a break yet. So, pretty successful.
That's all.
only thing I needed to bring you was a old projection screen TV, but you said you weren't taking TV.
There are places, and we've had a lot of calls on things like that. If you go to recyclespot.org, it's a Mark website, you can type in whatever item you have that you want to get rid of, and it'll tell you where you can take that. Because there are a lot of places around that take different items like that people just don't know about. So we've been trying to turn people onto that. We actually have a link on the website for that too.
Good, okay. Any reason for an executive session? Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. Motion from Bob Bentley, second by Alderman West. All in favor? Aye. Motion adjourned.